Hi, beautiful souls. How's my beautiful soul family today? Welcome to another Soul Food Sunday, and especially after the last 3 months of energy that I'm sure all of us have been feeling, I'm really grateful to be here. I wanted to go over today a concept that I found very interesting, and I've heard it in a few different ways, a few different formats. I think it was a Taoist version that I liked the best. And it was basically, if you take this part of your mind and you think of this as like a cavity space, and the inside of your mind is a scenic environment, right? So this is the sky, and this is where your consciousness lives. And these are like your mountains, and then right here is a lake. And in your lake is where your thoughts and feelings live. And, normally when we're happy and we're fulfilled in life and content, our consciousness floats up here in the sky and it observes the pond where our thoughts and emotions take place. And this is what being self-aware is. We are not obscuring our perception with specific thoughts and feelings, viewing the life and situations through only the lens of that particular thought or feeling. We're instead feeling things, thinking things, but we're able to take a step back and we're able to see the big picture without a skewed perception, right? Versus like when we're stressed and we're anxious and our consciousness goes from up here in the sky to being deep in the pond. And then you feel like you're drowning, right? And I love that because it's so accurate in my experience. When we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're feeling all the feelings that come with life, it feels like you're drowning, right? Or at least it can, depending on the circumstances and intensity, right? The way that I like to think of it is I'm either like halfway in the pond or like keeping my head above water, or okay, I need a flotation device now. Right? How many of us have been there like, all right, throw me a little something. And the second illustration that I really liked, and I found these two separately, but I actually really like using them together, is that when we deal with anxiety, when we deal with depression, when we deal with self-judgment, these are all thoughts and feelings that are like rocks or pebbles that we're throwing into the pond of our mind and creating negative ripple effects or ineffective ripple effects, right? And I really like that because it's so true. You think something here, you do something there, and what ends up happening is usually a ripple effect of, I feel this like feeling of like being mad or sad or whatever the case may be. And then because I had that feeling, I now have a thought with that feeling. Now that I have a thought with that feeling, now I have an action that I've now taken because of that feeling and thought. And now we've created a reaction in the environment that we took the action in. Ripple effect, right? It's a thing. So I loved those two put together, and they really made me think, like, what are the greatest rocks that we throw into the pole of our mind that can really like throw our entire life off? And here's where I would really like all of you to like maybe put in the comments, what rocks have you dealt with? What rocks do you think are a challenge to the pole of our mind and in creating those ripple effects that we don't necessarily want in our life? The two that came up for me was, one, expectations, and two attachments. And I know that a lot of people talk about those. I'm not talking, because I want to be very clear in this conversation, I'm not talking about unhealthy or healthy attachments, right? Because you can be attached to eating a healthy meal, and that's good for you, right? You can be attached to a dear friend who loves you unconditionally, supports you, upholds your boundaries. That's a healthy attachment. When you are attached to something in anxiety, feeling like you have to have it, that's where it becomes an extreme. That's an unhealthy attachment. And the same can be true of expectation, right? We can have healthy expectations of, if someone says they're going to be somewhere, we have an expectation that they will either be there or communicate it, right? Because that's showing respect. That's a healthy expectation as long as we are not attached to it happening every time, right? So there are healthy expectations and healthy attachments, and those are not in particular what I'm talking about. It's unhealthy expectations, it's unhealthy attachments. Why? Because those create extreme environments. And those extreme environments can look like a teeter-totter. Your life is a teeter-totter. And you want to be as close to the middle as possible, right? That's what we call balance. The challenge with unhealthy attachment and unhealthy expectation is it creates an extreme environment. What's the challenge in that? The universe's job is to rebalance everything, right? So if it knows you're in an extreme state, it's going to push you back. So on that teeter-totter, when we're in an extreme expectancy or attachment, we're on either end of that teeter-totter, right? Or somewhere in the unacceptable balance range according to the universe. And what ends up happening is they push. They go, oh no, you're in an extreme environment. No, we got to do something about this. And they push back. And they push back. And this is why oftentimes we feel such resistance in life. So I like to think of it as you have the universe pushing you back, and that's a message. That's a message. That's kind of like the universe going, whoa there, Nellie. Okay, let's slow down. Maybe take a break. Maybe just stop a second. Right? How many of us have experienced that? And then the question that came up in my mind is, well, and I've had that question a lot, is if that creates an extreme environment, how do you manifest? Because many manifestors are talking about how you have to expect things to happen, right? And I won't go too deep into this because this has been talked about a lot, but I do want to touch on it because I do think it's important in the scope of this conversation. One of the biggest things about manifestation is the ability to speak the truth that you want, speak it with meaning, speak it with feeling, and let it go. Now, why do I say that? Because if you're balanced in the middle here, and you speak something, but are not attached and expecting, you don't move the needle. You don't move the needle over to an extreme, right? So you're speaking it and you're letting it go and you're trusting, not expecting, trusting that the universe will come through. And what ends up happening a good deal of time when you do this with enough practice, because this takes a little practice, right, is you'll find that the universe often blesses you with more than what you spoke, right? But the key is to stay in that balance. Speak it with feelings, speak it with thought, speak it with passion. But don't expect it. Don't be attached to it. Don't move yourself out of the into the imbalanced state, right? Because if you stay in the balanced state while you speak this, the universe is going to look at you and go, oh, they're not in an extreme. We don't have to push them back into balance. And then it gives freely, right? And there's lots of videos on this, lots of videos, lots of information on doing that. The other thing that I think is really important to touch on is, what is the greatest challenges in staying in that balanced state and not becoming unhealthily attached or unhealthy expectation to happen? And I would also love to know your guys' thoughts on this. My experience and my observation has been that the biggest hindrance to staying in that balanced state where we can speak our passions without attachment and expectation is needs. Normally when people have unhealthy expectations, unhealthy attachments, their needs are not being fulfilled enough to allow them to stay in a balanced state, right? And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. And I think that this touches on something that's much more massive than maybe what I can even convey, is that we live in a society where it is not commonplace to request for our needs to be met. It is not commonplace for us to talk about what our needs even are. And the challenge with that is how are we supposed to get our needs met if it is almost taboo to talk about them? Right? So I want to leave you with a little something that I found. And that is, if you take like the wheel of life, I forget how many of it's, like 12 or 13 sections of life that there are. There's friends, social, there's family, there's love, there's work and career, and etc. If you go and you look at the wheel of life and you ask yourself, what do I need in this area? I think it will really surprise you. Because oftentimes, and not always, right? Sometimes we look at an area and we're like, oh, we need that. But is that the root need? Is that the root need? Or is that the surface level need? If you need a job, okay, what kind of job do you need? Are you thinking short term? Are you thinking long term? What kind of life do you want? And what kind of job is going to help give you the life that you want, not just pay your bills? So you have to really concentrate on it, really meditate on it, really get to that root need. And then I like to break it down further. I like to, once I figure out what the need is, figure out, how can I fulfill this need for myself, right? Because ultimately that's the biggest question. Because not everyone can help us fulfill our needs all the time, right? So first, I like to talk about with myself, how can I fulfill my needs? Then I like to talk about, how can I request for family and friends to support or help me with my needs and being fulfilled? And then the next I like to talk about with myself, in partnership, in a romantic relationship, what could I request of my partner to help them understand my needs and fulfill my needs better? And then also I like to talk about work. Is there anyone or anything at work where I can request something that will help me get my needs met better? And when you do that, you break it down, right? So you're not going straight towards, well, I need somebody to fulfill this for me, right? You're looking internally for that root to be filled by yourself first. That's very, very crucial, because if you can't fill yourself up first, you can't show up in life and relationships at the same depth and the same feeling and the same gratitude, right? And then rather than stating, I need this, I need this, I need this, when you talk to people, you can say, I would really like it if you could do this. It would help support me because I have this need, right? Instead of stating what you need, you're requesting what you need from them specifically to support you. And I think you'll find it creates an entirely different reaction in others. Even others who've known you for many years. And I've had this experience, and I know several others who have had that experience as well. But I just wanted to share all of that. In the last 3 months, I've done some deep diving and some deep research, and I wanted to share some of the fruit of that. I love you all, and I have so much unconditional love for you. Many blessings, and I hope you have an amazing day.